Banana Slam Jam.
This is my LC guide that I was requested to make from my charity stream. I may be making more in the future, but one reason why I stopped making guides was it required me to do a lot of research on replays to find specific examples of what I was doing, and I felt like that was really necessary to make the guides good, or like as visually helpful as possible. In this case, and in future guides, I just don't think that that's a sustainable practice for myself, and I don't wish to do that. So when I make hero guides, I'll simply be talking about all of the hero's kit, how it applies to the mid to late game and laning stage, like all stages of the game, when to pick the hero in general, why not to pick the hero, and more so just thinking about what the hero offers to the game, whether or not that's going to be one-dimensional or whether or not that's multi-dimensional in the case of a hero like Legion Commander. Basically just helping you understand the thought process behind picking and playing Legion Commander. So the beginning of this will be about the mechanics and leveling of her skills. So this is a pretty basic idea, but I want this to be the start of the video. Legion Commander is one of the heroes in the game that has very differing skill builds based on the lane matchup and game she's in. All three of her skills offer very unique things and can be used maxed out or left at one point in a lot of different matchups. All three of her skills scale pretty well, and all three of her skills also are nice value points. So what that means is there's a lot of room for flexibility in her skill builds. So she's a great hero to practice understanding of lane matchups and versatile skill building according to what game you are playing. So we'll talk about each skill one at a time. So overwhelming odds. I think the most notable reason to level this early is because you're against a hero that you can't happily trade with right clicks. An example would be Troll Warlord, Ursa, Monkey King, these type of heroes that if you're mana battling them with right clicks, it's probably not to your benefit. It also helps you secure range creeps. So in some matchups, even if that doesn't fit the description, if your 4 position cannot secure range creeps, it's something worth considering to take this ability. If you're in a lane where all you would need it for is to secure range creeps, but your laning stage would actually be stronger with your other 2 spells, and you have a 4 position hero that can secure range creeps, I think it's really worth noting that you consider telling your 4 position to try to secure the range, if needed, and then go for one of your other 2 skills. But the primary reason for overwhelming odds is because you feel like you can't trade effectively and securing the range creep. Most notably, when I go for overwhelming odds, I usually have either an Orb of Venom or Boots Windlace, meaning that those are some of the early items that I buy. Because obviously Boots Windlace benefit from the % bonus speed you get from using it, or Orb of Venom helps you chase them down better once you get it and you catch up to them. So if I'm going to go like a heavy trade build, I'll usually go for like bracers or wand type items. But if I'm going to be maxing overwhelming odds, that's usually not like a trading build. It's usually a nuke the creep wave, run up and hit them a couple times while I've got this 7-second speed duration, and then proceed to back off. I like to use overwhelming odds in a way that threatens it, if possible. If it's a lane where I need it to secure the range, I don't want to have to use it on every single range creep. So what I like to do is I like to say, well, I'm going to force this guy to either tank this overwhelming odds if he tries to deny the range creep, or I'm just going to posture, and if he doesn't try to deny it, I'll just right-click the range creep. So I like to make people choose between eating the damage of the overwhelming odds to try to deny, or just giving me the last hit. So I like to use that as a threat in the laning stage, and something you should consider in terms of like the mind game aspect and really utilizing the max efficiency of the hero. The next step is press the attack. So press the attack has a lot to do with why you pick the hero. A lot of people think of Legion Commander as a duel. In the highest level of Dota, she's primarily a press the attack. In lower MMR, I do think like solo pickoffs and stuff are a really important part of her kit, because people kind of just farm by themselves all the time. But when it comes to drafting and picking Legion Commander for press the attack, she's really good against supports specifically, usually in pubs. So whenever I'll do a guide on offlanes, you're probably going to be picking your hero sometime in the first 3 picks if you're an offlaner. So usually the only information you'll have is the supports on the opponent team. So I love to pick Legion Commander in lane against supports that have damage-based abilities that are removable. I would say the most notable ones are Batrider 5, Jakiro 5, and Disruptor 5. In those matchups, I will almost always take Press the Attack first level, because I don't like her as much against heroes with dispellable things that have already done damage to me. An example would be like Oracle's Root. Yeah, you can dispel the root off yourself, but it's already done damage to you. When we're comparing it to like Venomancer Gale or, Jakiro's Dual Breath, all of those skills rely on the skill lingering on you to do the damage. So I like to pick Legion when I see those types of supports. Another example would be Wyvern, but I also don't like to pick her into supports that stop me from winning my duels. Because if you pick her against supports that stop you from winning your duels, it makes it very difficult in the mid to late game, because you always have to duel only if you see that support, or you have to duel that support. Like a Wyvern, an Oracle, a Dazzle. These heroes are very hard. Shadow Demon. These heroes are very difficult to play Legion Commander into. I mostly like Press the Attack against one stun that relies on, like, the opponent team relies on their game, like, fight starting. So what I mean is, I don't like her against loads of stuns. I don't particularly like her against heroes like Shadow Shaman. I like her against heroes like Bat, heroes like DK, stuff that it has to go in, commit, use its stun, and then you dispel it and you win the fight. So if heroes have multiple stuns or long-range stuns where they don't really have to commit, I don't like Legion Commander nearly as much for the sake of her Press the Attack. So when it comes down to skill builds, I believe in an ideal world, I never level my Overwhelming Odds. Overwhelming Odds makes you trade worse because both of these skills go up in value a lot. This gives you an extra 33% HP regen from level 1 to 2, and it also gives you an extra 40% attack speed, and it also goes down in cooldown. This skill goes down in cooldown as well as lifesteal, and it's a passive. So it's just effectively free trading if you're allowed to level it. So if I'm in a lane that I feel like I can win really well, I like Legion against heroes that aren't good against consistent harass. For example, Faceless Void is a great carry I love to lane against his Legion. I just max my second and third skill because he wants to time walk off sudden bursts of damage, in which case it's really bad to level Overwhelming Odds, and it's much better to go for like a 0-2-2 build. At some point at level 5, almost always all of your skills have 1 point in them at least. I would say you're either like 3-1-1, 1-3-1, 1-2-2. Like you are going to have a point in all 3 of your skills almost every single game by level 5. Most of the time, you don't have enough mana to use both of these 2 skills, unless you're against like a Batrider who's feeding you a ton of stick charges. I'm not a huge fan of Soul Ring on the hero because most of the time you want Soul Ring, you would only be using it, like if you're using it for Overwhelming Odds, you're going to have health sustain issues. And if you're using it for your Press the Attack, I'd rather have like right-click damage items like an Orb of Venom or a Bracer or Phase Boots to make use of the fact that I'm giving myself more attack speed, that I'm trading a lot more, that kind of stuff. This is a skill that can be really strong level 1. I like to have at least 1 point in it by level 3. If I'm against a melee hero that I like to trade with, I love utilizing Moment of Courage because it's absolutely free. It obviously doesn't cost you mana. Most games, if I level Moment of Courage level 1, I'm ideally visualizing myself to then level Press the Attack level 2. The 2 abilities just synergize very well. Obviously, attack speed and regen-based trading, that's what you're doing. So very rarely will my skill build be first point Moment of Courage, second point Overwhelming Odds. But a lot of times when I level Overwhelming Odds first level to secure that range, I'm then going to level Moment of Courage simply because I don't have enough mana to support both of these skills level 2. Sometimes I'll hold the skill point if they have like a stun that might kill my support. Like if I'm level 2 and I leveled Overwhelming Odds, I might save a point for Press the Attack or my passive, depending on if I need it or not, to help my support. Like if they have like a Mirana that ganks or something and you need to give your support the Press the Attack to remove the arrow, that's like a good example of that. I think what she's really weak against is lineups that like to 5-man. You want heroes that ideally you blink duel someone and they're going to die. Heroes that are good examples of heroes that you want to blink duel are like the Slarks, the Jugs, You know, you don't want to blink duel an Ursa. You don't want to blink duel a DK. I wouldn't mind blink dueling a Bloodseeker, an Anti-Mage. I wouldn't really want to duel a Morphling. I wouldn't want to duel a Monkey King. Wouldn't really want to duel a PA. Wouldn't mind dueling a Phantom Lancer. Probably wouldn't really want to duel Lifestealer either, but then on the other hand, you have press the attack to remove his open wounds. These are just examples of, I like to envision myself blink dueling somebody and they die. Like, if the heroes don't fit that description, like TA is a great mid hero against Legion, because you just don't kill, like you do small instances, large amounts of damage per instance. So against TA, she's really bad. Like, I wouldn't want to duel a Troll Warlord. I wouldn't want to duel a Necro. I wouldn't mind dueling a Bristle. I'm just giving examples of, I like to blink duel, and if it feels crappy to blink duel, it probably wasn't a good Legion game. I don't like picking her into like Timbersaws, Underlords, Abaddons, you know, heroes that are going to be in front of my face, make it really annoying, and I can never duel them. It's very hard to play her into those heroes. So all I'm saying is, you can play against these heroes. None of them completely ruin Legion, but some of them will make her much more of a press the attack, and some of them will make press the attack rather worthless and make her much more about the duel. But avoiding picking her into those heroes when they're like first two picked is good. Legion Commander is a hero that is really strong in lane. I think in general, she has 330 move speed, 63 base damage. She has really good base stats. So unless they change that, she'll always be strong in lane. When you're coming down to your low MMR pubs, you kind of have two ways to play. You can itemize auras to help your team. You can go like Vlad, Solar Crest, all that kind of stuff. Vlad, Solar Crest, Pipe. Or you can go like the Blink Blade Mail build, like Shadow Blade Blade Mail. If I feel like I don't really want to buy a Blink right away, because it kind of like is all in, but I want to be able to potentially duel people to kill them, and I also want to be like a threat on the map, I like to go first item Blade Mail. Really good item right now, at least at the current meta, which is 7.26a. Just because if anybody tries to commit onto me while I'm farming or pressuring a lane, I have a Blade Mail to protect myself, but then I also have a Blade Mail to duel people and kill them. So that's like, I like to think of Legion as, ideally speaking, for the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, you're kind of just playing your own lane, consistently pressuring over and over again with your low cooldown skills. And you can make use of these low cooldowns by simply, that's the only time in the game you're going to be allowed to farm. Because past that, you're a press the attack to save your teammates, and you're a duel which threaten kills. So usually past like the 15-minute mark, similar to a hero like Axe, you're pretty much never showing in lane on Legion Commander. Like, you should just never show. You should either farm jungle or be with your team or looking for solo kills. You're giving away a ton of information on a hero like Legion Commander if you are on map showing the opponent where you are, because you're making yourself initiatable onto, like they can actually go onto you. She's not a hero that functions well when she gets jumped, for all the reasons, like if you just think about her skills. And she also means that your teammates are much more vulnerable because you're showing somewhere. Like if you're showing top and your teammate is mid, then you're making your teammate more vulnerable to dying because the enemy team knows that you're not behind them to save. So when it comes to the mid game, and I'm thinking about all my spell usage and stuff, I'm thinking, how potent is my duel? And if the opponent's trying to make a move, how significant of a save is my press the attack? And based on those factors, I'll either look to posture aggressively on the opponent's dead lane to potentially threaten ganks there, or I'll posture defensively around my mid tower, maybe around my teammates that are farming the dangerous parts of the map with press the attack, maybe looking to counter gank. I think a little mechanic trick I'll show you is that counter spell or Moment of Courage does have a cooldown, but if you're using it for a deny, it does not. So I'll show you this real quick. See how I can attack as many times as I want. So what you can do is you have a creep on your team that's half health. You A-click an enemy hero, so you're getting attacked, and then you just deny. So what happens is, with creep aggro specifically, is they aggro you for 2.3 seconds. So in the time that they have aggroed you, usually if you A-click your own creep, they'll de-aggro. But for the next 2.3 seconds, they will be locked onto you. They can't be de-aggroed for 2.3 seconds. So you can utilize the time in that 2.3 seconds where you took aggro to then counter-deny your own creep. So I'll show you one more time. Simply put, you get a creep that's below half. We'll do this one right here. A-click an enemy hero. And then you deny a bunch. Show you one more time just in case. See that? Instantly double deny it. One more time. A click. That was a perfect example right there. 4 attacks in a row. So that's a nice little tidbit of knowledge for you. Obviously, more creeps that are attacking you, the more likely you are to Moment of Courage proc. So right there you saw I had 5 creeps attacking me. It's much better to do it there. I like to make use of the Moment of Courage cooldown in tandem with my overwhelming odds. So like when I'm being aggressive in lane, let's unpause. I like to like overwhelming odds and then run at the guy, purposely drawing creep aggro. And then by the time the speed boost is out, I'll back off. I'll usually make use of like 1 Moment of Courage proc and then I'll back off because there is a cooldown. So Legion Commander is a lot about weaving in and out, utilizing the bonus movement speed from your Q. Using your Moment of Courage off cooldown. It obviously is a pretty low cooldown, but once it, like, especially when it's level 1, once you get that counterattack, you're not going to counterattack for another 2.3 seconds. So usually it doesn't benefit Legion to consistently trade over and over again. It benefits her to trade every 2 seconds or so. So that's worth considering when you're laning. I think a really important knowledge of skill on Legion is how important it is to simply duel the target. When you're dealing with Slarks, Embers, any hero that has a button they can press to dodge your duel, it's really important to decide, is it more important that I press the attack myself then duel, or should I just duel? Because your press the attack does have an animation. So it's something I see really often with really mediocre Legion Commander players, where they will press the attack themselves, even when their whole team is behind them ready to follow up. And they just don't get the duel because they took that extra cast animation of their W to finish the duel. Or to start the duel. And I think that's like something you should always consider. What's more important, initiating the duel or actually giving yourself the bonus attack speed so that you can secure the kill as fast as possible. So if you're going to practice Legion Commander, before you play her, you should definitely practice her mechanics. So we're going to, I think default mechanics should have a Blade Mail, a blink, and obviously all of your skills. So Legion Commander is a great hero to practice quick cast on, because I personally think quick cast is bad on all AoE skills. So press the attack, or overwhelming odds is an AoE skill that I don't have quick cast on. Notice how I push Q and then it gives me an AoE indicator. Then on the other hand, if I have a teammate that needs to be saved, I think it's really important that I have my W on quick cast. Oh, I guess, whoops. Let's reload, because I had my AoE press the attack talent. That doesn't help. So the mechanic you should learn to get down is that, first off, you have quick cast on everything except for your Q. So if you're going to use quick cast on a hero like Legion Commander, which I think you should if you want to make your series of button pressing just that much faster, you need to have this option on. Smart Double Tap, which makes it so that holding down Alt when pressing an ability or item will trigger a double tap if it is possible. If you don't have this on, you can't self-cast with double tapping on quick cast. Because if you're double tapping on quick cast, it's just trying to cast it wherever it is. So you can't do that. I can't cast W on myself with quick cast. So I like this because when you have abilities like press the attack that can be used on yourself or others, using it as Alt plus W means it's on yourself. And using it as W means it's means it's being used on somebody else. So like for me, I have my cursor over here and I can Alt W. I like it because you effectively are giving yourself a 5th skill in terms of your hotkeys. And the function of using press the attack on yourself as opposed to someone else is very different, right? So if you're using it as a save or you're just using it for damage on yourself, having that in your mind as 2 separate things, I think is really good for hotkey efficiency on Legion. So these are things where you have to learn what abilities you have time to press. Like if you're going to overwhelming odds, then you're going to press the attack, and then you're going to blink Blade Mail Duel. All of those things actually have time that they take, right? So if it's an opponent like Axe showing on a creep wave, I'm for sure going to use all 5 of them, or all 4 of them, or whatever. The point is that I think if you're going to practice, you should practice going overwhelming odds, or sorry, press the attack, overwhelming odds, blink, Blade Mail Duel. Like, that's what it should be. So you do this. You go. You should practice those mechanics until you can nail it every single time. You should be able to do that all as quickly as I just did it. If you can't do that yet, don't pick Legion until you can. Go into a private lobby and do it over and over again. The next step is to practice against Lincoln's builders. So a lot of times in lower level MMRs especially, people will buy Lincolns.
I'm just getting started.
Oftentimes, in the late game, because I'm so concerned about Lincoln Spheres, I'll actually hardly ever press the attack and overwhelming odds. That's something you can kind of learn for yourself. I'll kind of just concern myself with just making sure I get the duel off. Usually when people have Lincoln Sphere, the most important thing is that you actually get the duel off. But there's nothing wrong with trying to push your limits in a private lobby. Damn it. Pushed it before my halberd. Didn't blade mill. These are type of things where you notice how, as I'm working on it, like, it's getting better, but I haven't played Legion in about a month, so it's just taking me time to get used to again. There we go. That was pretty quick. One more time. And that's something you should have down. That's like the next step of Legion Commander. But I think it's perfectly fine in the late game to just skip all your other shit. You don't even have to press the attack. But finding how much time you have to use these skills is really important. And it's something you should get used to. So it's like Alt-W when you're off screen. The nice thing about Quick Cast is that all of your spells go off that much quicker. So one really important note about Legion is you cannot press the attack magic immune targets, including yourself. So if you have Blink, Blade Mail, BKB, and you want to Blade Mail, BKB Duel, and you want to also press the attack yourself, if I BKB first, I cannot press the attack myself. So if I want to Blade Mail, or if I want to BKB and press the attack myself, I have to do it first. I guess in summary, Legion Commander is a very consistent, like, her power spike is very snowbally, and it's like a linear line. She doesn't have these, like, sudden moments where she's super powerful. Legion Commander is all about just a momentum-based Dota, and spiraling that momentum to consistent map control. That's what Legion is all about. The minute that she doesn't have map control anymore, she turns into a save. Like, she just turns into somebody that can push W on their teammates. And at that point, you'd rather have an Abaddon at that stage in the game. So if you're looking for an ideal Legion game, it's all about consistently running at the opponent. And obviously her power spikes could be stuff like Blade Mail, stuff like Blink. Blink means that you have, like, Blink first means you're more trusting the damage from your teammates to follow you up. Maybe you have a 4-position Skywrath. Maybe you have a mid Queen of Pain or something like that. While Blade Mail is much more about solo kill potential. Yes, Blade Mail is a bit worse because of magic immunity not working, or magic immunity blocking the damage. So, like, in matchup against, like, Jug, I'm not necessarily inclined to go Blade Mail nearly as often. But against a lot of heroes, it's still pretty good as long as they don't have magic immunity. Like, Blade Mail against Slark is very nice. That's a perfect example. But it's really about understanding, like, if I'm going to blink duel somebody, how is that going to lead to them dying? Do they have any saves on their team? If they have a Wyvern, I can't duel that person if the Wyvern's not showing on the map. If they have... If I have no duel damage at 20 minutes into the game, I'm probably never a solo kill potential. So at that point, maybe I'm aura building. Maybe I'm just blink stunning with the duel, and that's it. If they have heroes like OD, Legion Commander is very hard to play into. And usually if you're against ODs, I like to just say, I have to duel this OD every single fight, because if I don't, they're just going to Astral Imprison whoever I duel. So I like to go into fights, into every stage of the game, thinking, who am I going to duel? Why? Am I going to go first, meaning is it best that I start the fight? Or am I more of a follow-up, or am I more of like a counter-initiation? Against heroes like Slark, you're either going to start the fight immediately, or you're going to let them go in first and make it really weird for them. If they have like a lot of counter-initiation themselves, against a hero like Slark, you may be better off letting the fight break out first, and then once the Slark has committed, you blink duel the Slark. If you play like that, the benefit is that Legion Commander poses such a huge threat to heroes like Slark that they have a really hard time playing the fight as long as you haven't committed your duel yet. So the minute you commit your duel, a hero like Slark feels much safer to kind of navigate the fight however they want. So understanding how much of an impact your threat of the duel is in fights, understanding whether or not you should go first, whether or not you should be a counter initiation, whether or not you are a follow-up stun, that all ties into whether or not you go blink, whether or not you just go auras, whether or not You go Blade Mail for the solo kill potential, whether or not you need a BKB, because if you're going to blink in and duel and just die if you don't have a BKB, then you probably need a BKB. Very rarely would I recommend Ags over BKB, just because they're effectively the same item, but BKB can be used if you get initiated onto. How do you itemize after blink Blade Mail? It's understanding your role in the game. So if I said your role is to blink duel somebody, you're most likely getting a BKB. If you're somebody that's sitting in the back, you're most likely going like Solar Crest or Shadow Blade for positioning. Or you're going like Vlad's, potentially. Even like a late Vlad's on Legion's reasonable. Shadow Blade is more of an item that I view as a positioning item for my blink. Very rarely will I have a Shadow Blade on Legion without a blink dagger. The Shadow Blade allows you to maneuver the map through wards or through hero vision in order to position yourself better to instantly blink duel somebody. It doesn't feel good on Legion to Shadow Blade and walk up to someone and duel them. I don't like against competent players, at least it doesn't work very well. If you have a lot of duel damage, items like AC and Satanic go up in value a lot, because obviously Satanic, you're going to be lifestealing more per hit, and with AC you're going to be attacking more often, and you also benefit from trades because of them having less armor and you having more armor. I don't really ever go like Basher. I don't think Deso's really an item on the hero. Super late game, if you're like really trying to carry the game, you can consider right-click items like Butterfly. Like you can consider these attack speed-based items. Daedalus for the massive crits if you really are that farmed. Mjolnir against Illusion heroes. I would say other than BKB, you're hardly ever itemizing defensively. You might need to itemize to break Lincoln Sphere with something like a Halberd. I personally like Phase Boots the most on Legion Commander. I've seen people go Treads, but Phase Boots synergize really well with her Q because you just have a huge burst of movement speed all at once. She obviously benefits from the armor as well. What is a lot of damage on LC? That's kind of up to you. I would say primarily a lot of damage on LC late game is like 200 plus. Why does BKB not remove press the attack, but BKB removes Necro W? You just can't be ethereal and magic immune at the same time because you're effectively immune to everything. That's just a mechanic in Dota. Anything that's ethereal, you can't also be while BKB. You can't be decrept. You can't be Ghost Sceptered. You can't be E-bladed. That's just a mechanic in Dota, sir. So yeah, I think that's really it for the Legion Commander guide. This is more of an experiment for me. I want to see how much people feel like they're learning from these type of guides. It's much more conceptual based and talking, like almost just discussing the hero. So please, guys, let me know in like the YouTube comments and everything what you feel, if you feel like this guide was helpful to you when thinking about picking Legion Commander. I think the emphasis I'll make in every hero guide that I ever do make is that the hero is always the same and always bad for the same reasons. Meaning that it's always good and bad for the same reasons. Like Legion will always be bad against heavy 5-man lineups. Legion will always be good against split-pushing farmers such as Anti-Mage. She'll always be good against hard initiators like Batrider. She's just always going to be good against the same stuff and bad against the same stuff. All that matters is that toolkit that she offers to the meta right now impactful? Is she good against what's good right now? And how does her laning stage match up against that? Right now, I don't know how I feel about Legion Commander because I feel like the meta is very deathball-y. But the minute that farm-heavy cores start to come into the meta, where they're going to be playing by themselves a lot, I like to pick Legion Commander an awful lot. I think the most notable heroes I will insta-think to pick Legion Commander against is Slark, Anti-Mage, Jug. I really like her against offlane Batrider. Venomancer, Bounty Hunter. I like her a lot against Bounty Hunter because you can remove track and also he capitalizes on mobility. And then also, like I said, the heroes I really hate playing her against are the saves for duels and heroes that are super elusive that can jump me from long range. So like I hate Queen of Pains, I hate Storm Spirits. I'm not a huge fan of her against Ember. It's okay in lane versus Ember, but I'm not a huge fan of it in game against it. Wyvern, Dazzle, Oracle, Shadow Demon, Baden, Outworld Devourer. So these are the type of heroes I don't want to pick her against. Also heroes like Kunkka that buff up their entire team, and I don't like to think of my duel as an alley-oop to the opponent's spells. Meaning that opponent spells that are usually having to be targeted. I love her against Morana support because of the ability to remove arrow Pretty much negates the entirety of what Mirana wants to do. But yeah, I want to be able to think to myself that when I blink Duel, that benefits my team rather than the opponent's when I'm picking Legion Commander.
One thing I want to include on the guide is what Legion pairs well with on her team. So first and foremost, because I talked about Legion Commander not really wanting to show on map past the 15-minute mark, I want carries that also want to show on map. I want heroes that farm waves and feel strong getting initiated onto with strong turn potential. Most notably, super man-up-esque heroes. I want Troll Warlord. You know, I want Terrorblade. I want Jug, Faceless Void, Gyro. Heroes that, if given the chance to turn the fight, will do so. Heroes I don't necessarily want on my team are heroes like Ursa. Heroes like Drow, where if they get initiated onto, they're usually pretty crap, or they just don't benefit from the attack speed very often. I don't want a Riki. I don't want a Bloodseeker. I don't want probably a Spectre's okay. I don't want these heroes that either don't benefit from the attack speed or they just never want to be initiated onto. Legion Commander is not a tank. She wants somebody that sits in front of her, and when they get gone on, you push W, and that makes her job way easier to do. Luna's fine. Heroes that stand their ground and man the F up. Those are the heroes that you want with Legion Commander. So it really does boil down to, when you look at your own draft, what is your role in regards to these other heroes? Do they need you to just be a stun, or do they need you to be a buff up? Like, in terms of ending the game as Legion Commander, you're either ending it by controlling the map and threatening kill potential, or by helping your carry siege high ground with stuff like Solar Crest and press the attack. So when it comes down to the way you want to build and play your hero, look at the heroes on your team that you would potentially use press the attack on. Mid laners like Medusa, SF, TA, these are all great for having them either stand in front or you to like buff them up. So yeah, it's Sniper is another example where it's not necessarily perfect because he doesn't show on map all that often, but he is the guy that's going to siege the high ground and you are going to sit behind him and W him. These are the type of heroes. I want to pair them with one hero, ideally, that I can buff up with press the attack or help them tank, and plus one or two heroes that help me burst during Duel. So I want like one core that fits the description I've already listed, and then another core like a Queen of Pain, a Storm Spirit, you know, even a Zeus, a Lina, some hero that's going to give me the follow-up damage to win the Duel. Right now, like, Skywrath Mage is a really bad support, but that's fine as well if he's ever meta. Ancient Apparition is another support that comes to mind. Just heavy burst damage to follow up your Duel is the other part of Legion that makes her game the easiest to play. So the major two concerns I have is having no hero that frontlines, feels really awkward for Legion, and no way to reliably win duels unless you're the one with all the damage, which doesn't ever feel good on Legion because if you start the game with maybe a rough landing stage or you just don't quite win your first couple duels, suddenly your hero feels pretty trash. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and it'll be up on YouTube soon.